Two things. One is to assert some sort of legitimacy for Benjamin Netanyahu as a world leader. I just want to remind the audience that he is somebody who has an arrest warrant out for him because he is a war criminal, a practitioner of genocide. This is a man who is responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of innocent Palestinian people. He is the scum of the earth. And yet he was invited to the United States to speak in the People's House for the people's representatives. He wrapped himself in not just the flag of the United States, but the ostensible cloak of legitimacy that entails, that brings out. So this was to, assert him as a legitimate leader. And then the other main goal is to, in doing so, send a signal to the Israeli people that he is the anointed leader of Israel, that America supports, America backs. There are some peripheral things being discussed. He, of course, has a vision that he outlined in his speech. It was pure fantasy, derived from lies, derived from mischaracterizations, and just total manufactured crap. But he had to say that because he had to put a marker down for his constituents back in Israel, the far right wing, that he was fighting for the cause they support. He couldn't come to the United States and articulate something that was not politically supportable by his base. So that any deviation from what he articulated, and there will be major deviations, when he returns to Israel, he can say, I had no choice because America insisted on this. And we need America, and America has picked me to be the leader of Israel during these difficult times, because his coalition will collapse if he, buys into a ceasefire, which he's being pressured to do so by America. So, confronting the reality of a collapsed coalition and understanding that without the ability to assemble a new coalition to replace it, his political career is over. And he will probably, at that point in time, spend the rest of his life in jail as a convicted, corrupt leader, unable to leave Israel because he'll be arrested on the spot because he's a war criminal who has committed genocide against the Palestinian people. He is going to do his best to remain politically viable. Right now, the only way he can do that is to wrap himself in the American flag and say, I am the anointed one, the one that the United States and this ridiculous show in the People's House, having American leaders who have lost all morality, all sense of right and wrong, applaud him as if this was a replay of the Soviet Central Committee of the Communist Party back in the Cold War.
We thought that he's going to ask for some sort of permission to go after Hezbollah, but he was talking more about Iran, and he wants a war with Iran. Do you think he's really serious in what he's talking about?
No, of course not. He's not serious. He can't have a war with Hezbollah because he will lose a war with Hezbollah, and he can't have a war with Iran because he will lose a war with Iran. It's not serious. Nobody in the United States is taking this serious. Yes, we have the French kooks on the right and the French kooks on the left, both of whom meet in the same spot because they are unabashed supporters of this Zionist criminal entity we call Israel. But nobody's going to war with Hezbollah or Iran. That's the quickest way to a death sentence for Israel there is. He was playing to the base. There will be no war with Iran. There will be no war with Hezbollah. It just isn't going to happen. It's a fantasy on his part. The Israeli Defense Force has said, we can't do this. We are out of tanks. We are out of spare parts. We are out of ammunition. We can't defeat Hezbollah. We can't defeat Hamas. So when you have your military saying this, what makes you think that he's going to go forward with campaigns that are destined to end in not just the minor defeat of Israel, but the strategic defeat of Israel, the physical destruction of Israel? No, it's just all words for the base.
Don't you think that is a desperate attempt on his part? Because after a military operation that wasn't successful in Gaza, and they're shifting to Hezbollah. Right now, it's the Biden administration said to them that if you go after Hezbollah, we're not going to be there to help you. You have to do it by yourself. And right now they're shifting to Iran. It seems that they're hoping that if they pick a bigger fight with Iran, that could bring the United States into the conflict.
No, it's stupid. The United States has already told him, we're not playing this game. Don't you remember April? When Iran attacked Israel in retaliation for the Israel criminal action that took place in Damascus, where they violated international law by bombing a diplomatically protected facility of the Iranian on Syrian soil? What was the response? A massive attack by Iran against Israel, 9 missiles of which penetrated the impenetrable defense shield, hitting the targets they were designated to hit in Israeli air bases, sending a signal that we can do this anytime we want to. Israel said we have to respond. What did America say? Good luck, because you ain't getting our help. You want to know why America said that? Because back when President Trump assassinated Qasem Soleimani, the Iranians retaliated against the American forces at the Al-Assad air base in Iraq, firing missiles that penetrated the American defense shield and hit their targets with a precision that shocked America. Mr. Donald Trump, the toughest guy in the world, the tough guy doesn't back down, sat in silence because there's nothing he could say, because Iran put a marker on the table that said, if you want to take this to the next step, every single one of your facilities in the Middle East will be hit with the same level of lethal precision. So Trump just shut up. And that lesson carried over to the Biden administration. They know what the outcome would be of a conflict with Iran. So they're not going to back Israel's insane desire. This is Benjamin Netanyahu. Look, there's a reason why he's a war criminal. It's because he's insane. He's been insane from day one. This is a man who's so far detached from reality, it's not even funny. He's also a political operative that's shown a proclivity for surviving in scenarios where most politicians would not. He's playing a very dangerous political game. But the United States has made it as crystal clear as possible. They're not going to be sucked into a conflict with Iran. There's zero chance of that happening. Zero chance. Let me remind everybody, we thought we could intimidate the Houthi, that we could compel them through force of arms in stopping their blockade against Israel. We failed. We continue to fail. And that military that failed against the Houthi is supposed to somehow defeat Iran? Go smoke more dope. It isn't going to happen.
At the same time, Scott, when we are witnessing that Putin is bringing Erdogan and Bashar al-Assad together, China is bringing all these groups in Palestine together to make some sort of agreement among them. And you see Netanyahu just talking about war in the US Congress. How do you picture this? Russia and China trying to bring some sort of agreement, and the United States, everybody's applauding Netanyahu for bringing more wars.
Well, I mean, basically, we see the stark contrast between the American approach towards global affairs and the approach by the Russians, the Chinese, and others. Dwight D. Eisenhower set the stage for this in his farewell address, where he warned the American people back in 1961 about the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He said, if we allow our society to continue to be dominated by this, it will forever change and destroy American democracy. And that's where we are today, because this facade of democracy we call the United States of America is a little more than a war machine. Our economy, our society, our politics, the way we interface with the world is all defined by conflict, because that's what a military-industrial complex demands. War is the lifeblood of the American system. We can't succeed, we can't function unless they have conflict. We need conflict, so we promote conflict. That's why you see what you see here. Russia and China, on the other hand, aren't addicted to their respective military industrial complexes. They haven't been injecting that heroin into their veins. They believe in diplomacy. They believe in nonviolent resolutions to complex problems. And they've shown that it succeeds. After all, it was the Russians and the Chinese that brought the Saudis and the Iranians together. It's the Russians and the Chinese that have brought the various Palestinian factions together to create a fusion system that cannot be rejected by Israel or the United States on the grounds that it is Hamas dominated. And now you have Putin doing his best to bring an end to a conflict in Syria that was created by the United States. The United States created this. The United States made the Syrian conflict happen. The United States poured billions into that because we are a war machine, addicted to war. That's all we know how to do. We do not know how to make peace. Peace is actually poison to us because if there's peace, the war machine isn't being fed. But the Russians and the Chinese don't operate that way. But here's the difference. The Russians and Chinese don't care about America anymore. They simply don't care. I mean, America's there, can't ignore it. But the day where they had to say, well, we can't do this because America opposes it, is over. They don't care. Not only that, by promoting peace, they're going to watch America, this addict to war, go into withdrawals. Because without the conflict to feed it. I mean, look again. Look at Netanyahu. What passed for a peace plan under Donald Trump in the Middle East? The Abrams Accords. The Abrams Accords is a big peace plan. No, it was a war. It literally was a system designed to promote conflict between Sunni and Shia, with Israel siding on the side of the Sunni. That's all it was. The Abrams Accord was not a peace plan. It was designed to suppress the national ambitions of the Palestinians while creating a political, economic alliance to oppose the Shia Crescent, the axis of resistance. When I say oppose, I mean oppose violently, to create an economic system that would buy more American weapons. That's what it was all about. And it's dead. It's gone. It's finished. And so what's Netanyahu's response? More Abrams, double down on Abrams. But the region, the world, China, Russia, they're not playing that game because they recognize peace is the only path forward. Peace is the only path forward. If you choose war, all you get is death and destruction. For America, that's what we feed on. We feed on the death and destruction of others. We promote the wars abroad. That's all we do. Think about it. Around the world, show me one place where America's promoting peace. One. It's just a challenge out there. Where? What? It doesn't exist. We don't know how to do it because we are addicted to war. And so the Russians and the Chinese are simply pushing us off to the side, and they're promoting peace. And nations are deciding that they don't want the war, the death, the destruction that the United States offers, because that's all America offers. They want peace. They want prosperity. This is the victory of diplomacy over militarism. In America, the only way we're going to save ourselves is to buy into the same thing. Now, this is going to require a radical transformation that we're not ready to undertake. Maybe we need to have some sort of collapse where the edifice of conflict just totally breaks down, and then we can rebound and rebuild as part of a global system. But as long as we think we are the essential nation, the world can't live without us. We're America, but what we mean is that we can't live without the world being at war. That's what it's about. That's what American hegemony is about. One nation surrounded by global conflict, and that conflict feeds us, sustains us, defines us. I think the world's tired of that, and they're walking away.
When Netanyahu is talking about we, Israel and the United States, together with our Arab friends, we can fight Iran. Do you think he considers that if he goes after Iran, if he pick a fight with Iran, that Saudi Arabia and UAE going to be on his part?
Let me correct your question. You mean when the genocidal war criminal at the head of the apartheid, illegitimate Zionist state of Israel? Let's stop talking about Netanyahu as he's somehow legitimate. The man is an insane war criminal. He's the scum of the earth. And like any criminal in a desperate situation, he plots more crimes. He's looking for collaborators in his criminal activity. No one will align with Israel. That's what Israel is starting to learn as a nation. They are fundamentally isolated because the entire world sees them for what they are. An illegitimate, Zionistic apartheid state committing criminal acts of genocide against the Palestinian people. So let's stop saying Netanyahu. I spit when I say his name. He's the scum of the earth. He should never have been allowed into my country, into my house, the people's house, the Congress of the United States. He should never receive applause from a single representative of the American people, because we are not supposed to be a nation that promotes genocide. And yet that's what we have become, apologists for genocide. Not just cheerleaders for genocide. Screw Benjamin Netanyahu. Nothing he says is linked to reality. Nothing. He can hope, he can want. It's not going to happen. As I told you, that speech was intended to mollify the base back in Israel. There's no real plan there. Saudi Arabia isn't going to jump. Saudi Arabia has bought into BRICS. Okay? That is the future of Saudi Arabia. BRICS, peaceful coexistence, economic expansion, not buying into the war and conflict-driven relationships of the past, but a new future. The same with the United Arab Emirates. That's their future. They're not going to go backwards, and definitely not for a scum like Netanyahu. They're not going to align themselves with a genocidal state. That's insane. Saudi Arabia will never back genocide against the Palestinian people. And that's what Netanyahu is saying he wants. The United Arab Emirates will never back genocide against the Palestinian people. But that's the fantasy world that Netanyahu lives in. This criminal, this scum, this genocidal maniac.
This is a child protected area. Slow down less than 30 kilometers. This is a child protected area. Slow down less than 30 kilometers.